Welcome to ZKast, everyone. I'm ZS Caraval from ZK Research, and I'm here in person at Juniper's Enterprise Analyst and Influencer Summit. And I'm joined today by Sudheer Matta, who's Group VP for Juniper's Cloud product Mist, right?
AI-driven enterprise product management.
Yeah. So just give a quick bio into yourself and tell us what you do here.
First of all, ZS, thank you so very much for the opportunity, and thank you for being part of the Enterprise Summit for us here at Juniper. So hello everybody, Sudheer Matta. I run product management for our AI-driven enterprise portfolio, which is wireless switching, SD-WAN, and soon to be announced our network access assurance product portfolio as well.
That's a lot of stuff.
It is.
So normally when I do these Zcasts, I interview the guest, but we're going to flip things around a little bit. I understand there's a few questions you want to ask me first before we get going.
That's right.
So fire away.
That's right. So ZS, obviously you speak to a lot of customers, vendors, partners, and so cloud is top of mind for a lot of them.
It is.
So talk about sort of, customers moving to the cloud, where they are in especially when it comes to network, where they are in their journey, and some of the challenges you think.
Yeah, it's funny. I always say if you want to understand the future of networking, look what happened elsewhere in IT, and that'll happen in networking, 5-6 years later, right? And I think that's playing out again with cloud. Obviously, cloud's been a big part of enterprise strategy for the better part of 2 decades. It's relatively new to networking, last half decade or so, and I'd say part of that is just because of the relative importance of the network, right? We don't really get a second chance if you mess up the network. So there's been a lot of conservatism from network buyers, but I think a lot of early adopters did move, and part of your customer base is that. But I think what the pandemic did was it ushered in this new era of networking where if I don't have my IT pros in the office, I don't have my users in the office, and I'm trying to manage this global network, I got to do things differently. And so the old way of sitting there and hunting and pecking at a CLI while I'm directly attached to the router or the switch doesn't work anymore. Right, so I do think it's something most customers are looking at. I think they're looking to really change their operational model and automate more, and that's been a big change too. Because frankly, 3-4 years ago, when I say automate to IT pros, they go, whoa, you're taking our job. But now they understand automation is a tool with which to do their job better. But still in networking, it's less than half. I'd say probably under 30% of companies have actually migrated their management to the cloud.
Yeah, and for those that have not moved, why do you think that is?
I just think it's a lot of conservatism and not wanting to, that expression, if it ain't fixed, don't broke it, or if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I think in a lot of cases, it is broken, they just don't know it, right? If you look at a lot of the challenge around running networks now, human error still accounts for the #1 cause of downtime, right? So that's something we got to get rid of. Here's another interesting stat. You know that 3/4 of trouble tickets are opened by the user, not the IT department. And what that does is it puts us in reactive firefighting mode, right? And then there's just I think there's a lot of legacy infrastructure out there, right? And so that stuff's got to get removed and modernized before we can actually move to more of a modern cloud architecture, for our network.
Yeah, so you pretty much sort of summarized sort of our premise that the network is going to move to the cloud, and so that's how we started. So I'll let you actually now carry on with your part of the interview and the questions.
Yeah, so Juniper Mist, right? It's a lot of momentum for you guys. In fact, when I watch your earnings calls, enterprise is growing like crazy for you, right? Mm-hmm. It's now I think bigger than
it's our #1 vertical.
Yeah, which is amazing. I would never have thought that for Juniper years ago. So, but talk about Mist and the cloud architecture and how it works.
Yeah. So thank you. So for those of you that may not know what a Mist is a company that got founded in 2014 by Sujay Hajela, Bob Friday. We got started in Wi-Fi, and then when we merged with Juniper, we became the enterprise portfolio of Juniper. So now we came in with Wi-Fi, then added switching, SD-WAN, and now access assurance, which is the NAC portfolio that we just launched. And so this is the portfolio. all, the founding principle of Mist was we're going to be cloud native and AI driven from day one, right? Everything we do cloud native using the elastic sort of scalable public cloud architecture. And so that's why this is our enterprise business unit. Internally, we call it AI driven enterprise. We want it to be ingrained within our name that we are AI driven cloud native, and that's what the portfolio is.
Yeah, and one of the reasons, one of the things I liked about Mist was that you did start with Wi-Fi. And I've always said that within the confines of enterprise networking, there is nothing harder than Wi-Fi troubleshooting.
Right.
In fact, I've talked to some organizations where they have engineers that spend a full day a week doing nothing but Wi-Fi troubleshooting, right? So if you can solve that problem, you can solve a lot of the other ones. And so,
I'll give you a simple example on that. I used to run a school district network for my local school district with the IT team when I was at Cisco, and they were having issues, students not able to connect, and so they said, "Hey, can you come and troubleshoot?" Literally, we took 8 engineers from the partner, 4 of us from Cisco, 4 from the customer, a massive team of people. We went classroom to classroom, opening laptops, trying to capture why students can't get on the network.
And no one knows.
And nobody knows, because obviously what happens when you go to the doctor, it works, right? And so whichever classroom we went, the laptops were working fine. So anyway, long story short, we essentially, from that experience, essentially, a few days later that I quit Cisco and joined Mist, because I was like, wow, there is a better way to build networks than people going to classrooms opening laptops. Out of that experience came a feature we call dynamic packet capture. So never ever do you have to send 15 people to classrooms trying to figure out what is happening. So it truly cloud-enabled a way to capture failures in the network, store them if you need them, but maybe even react and fix the network as you see it.
Yeah, and that's great for chronic problems, because those are the ones it seems network engineers, I'm a former network engineer myself, and Wi-Fi, you just hope it went away.
That's right, right.
So now there are a lot of cloud management tools today. I mean, cloud management is not unique to Juniper. So how do you feel you're differentiated in amongst this ocean of many cloud management tools?
Great question. So in the networking space, Meraki was definitely the one that started first, with a cloud-driven architecture. Then came Aruba, and then a bunch of other folks. But really, Mist had a clean sheet of paper opportunity. So the difference fundamentally is, Meraki was basically a set of servers in a shard running in private data centers, right? Because Meraki was founded before the iPhone was invented, and so it was private data center based, right? And then a bunch of other companies tried to move their controllers to the cloud and all this kind of. We had, born in 2014, we had the wind in the sail of us of AWS and Azure and GCP, and so we use the elastic scalable public cloud. So number one, elastic scalability, right? Our largest customer today has 180,000 access points in one instance.
Wow, that's a big network.
And then they doubled down and bought 25,000 switches, adding another 30,000 switches this year, right? There isn't a Meraki cloud that can manage, 250,000 devices like that in one, instance. Some of the other folks haven't even hit scale like that, right? So a hyper differentiated, elastic scalable cloud is number one. And then it's a very microservices architecture, right? Basically, we took what existed in the wireless LAN controller world, completely piece-parted the functions and built microservices, stateless microservices, so we can update them at will without causing downtime, right? And so that's the second. So elastic scalable public cloud and microservices, core differentiation for us.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because not all clouds are created equal, right? So, and it's for anybody watching this, this is important to understand. Picking up a legacy workload like a wireless controller and putting it in the cloud doesn't make it cloud.
Correct.
It just makes it cloud resident, right? Not versus cloud native. And there's a big difference between cloud resident and cloud native. I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah. And there are easy ways in which you can figure this out, right? So for example, for a cloud native architecture like ours, we are able to release new features to the cloud
Right. In fact,
without downtime.
Yeah. In fact, you do a biweekly update
Production
push.
push, yes.
Yeah. And most of the cloud management tools, they actually have to shut down.
That's right.
Right. So
That's
how
right.
are you doing that?
Yeah. So most of our competitors, have to take downtime on their cloud. I mean, the largest competitor, Aruba as an example, takes downtime probably 8 to 12 hours every quarter to upgrade their cloud. In our case, we've not had to take downtime at all, right? And we upgrade production networks while they're running, while they're changing configs, while they're using the network.
That doesn't scare your customers?
Initially, it scares. One of the customers actually, they were like, "What are you doing to us? So you're going to change my network every 2 weeks without permission from me?" Fast forward to 2 years into their deployment, they say it's the single best feature they've had from us because they get new features and architecturally they experience no downtime, right? From a user perspective, no downtime, but they get new features. It's an interesting architecture. So the question was, how do we do this, right? And so the technicalities actually, if I explain it, it becomes very simple. So because our microservices are stateless, so we have, let's say, 12 instances of a microservice running. I can update the instance 1, the remaining 11 are carrying the load, and then when it's updated, it joins the queue again. And so I can, in a round-robin fashion, do the upgrade. None of those, instances have state in them, and so they can seamlessly pick up where they leave, and then they continue. And so we are doing inline updates across all the microservices in the cloud, hundreds of them, with zero downtime and zero scheduled outage.
Yeah, that's amazing that you can actually do that. And when you think about other IT parts of IT that have moved to cloud, like application development, it's very common to update an application on the fly.
Right.
In the consumer world, that happens all the time. You get a new version of some application.
A new app,
yeah. But in the networking space, we've resisted that, and I think the downside of doing that, again, if you want to think of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You're not getting the security updates.
Right.
You're not getting new features that are going to make your network run better.
Right.
Which is why when you look at a lot of large legacy networks out there, they're running 10, 20, 30, 40, maybe even 100 different versions of operating systems. They got all these different features. It's very hard to keep things in sync. So things will work well on one box and not another, and then you wind up with the mess that we have today.
Yeah. And actually you've touched on one of the most important benefits of this. A lot of people don't come to cloud because they think from a security perspective, oh my God, it's outside my network and how do I secure it? In fact, it's the opposite. Cloud gives you agility to apply security patches. When the crack vulnerability got announced, right? We had a release on the same day. The most recent, the Log4j, vulnerability that was announced, we remediated on the cloud globally for our customers without them lifting a finger, versus everyone else had to upgrade their own network because the controller had vulnerabilities, right? And so security is a great outcome. In fact, the cloud is more secure and more resilient than your on-prem networks.
Yeah.
Right? It's very counterintuitive.
And you wouldn't have said that a few years ago either, right?
Yeah, you couldn't. Yeah, you couldn't.
So now you've used this term scale over and over. When you say scale, what do you mean by that? How do you think about that, and how does Mist adapt scale up?
Yeah, so let's talk about scale up a little bit, right? Scale up from the size of the network perspective and the operations perspective. So I'll talk about the operations first. When Gmail first came out, Google had a distinct goal that any page in Gmail should load in 100 milliseconds, less than 100 milliseconds, right? It doesn't matter how much email you have in your email inbox, they want to load in less than 100 milliseconds.
I get a lot of email.
Yes. We had a similar goal that it doesn't matter what size of network you're operating with Juniper Mist, we want you to load in under 2 seconds, right? So if you are Fortune 10 company with the scale of Fortune 10 network, we still want your network to just be buzzing, be fast. And so, a lot of the legacy vendors, if you do on-prem, DNA Center, Cisco Prime, blah, 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 you are responsible for scale up. In our case, we are responsible so that your experience is always delightful. That's number one. That's from a IT experience perspective. From a user experience perspective, we think of scale as we just want it to be elastic scalable, right? We do not want you to have to worry about, because think of all the things that current controller-based customers have to worry about. Oh, my controller has a capacity of 5,000. Oh, I need 200 more APs.
Yeah.
Oh God, I need a new controller. Oh, it doesn't support my old AP image. I mean, it's all of that magic, poof, goes away, right? Elastic scale. And that's what the public cloud got for us.
Yeah. And okay, so now I'm going to flip a question back at you. You asked me before, why aren't customers moving to the cloud? What are customers telling you? Why haven't they moved to the cloud, and how do you convince them that it's something they should do?
Yeah, so I would say, exactly like what you said, is it's either inertia, because don't fix it if it's not broke, or it's fear. It's really just those two feelings for them to go to the cloud. The honest truth is, all of the vendors are going to the cloud. If you're Cisco, you're going to the cloud with Meraki. If you're Aruba, you're going to the cloud with Central. If you're Mist, you're coming to Mist, right? Everybody's going to the cloud. So that's not a question anymore whether your network is going to the cloud or not. All vendors are going there, so let's get on with it. Now, the thing that actually people struggle with is just how do I think about security? And here's the proof point I want to give you, right? The world's largest enterprises, including the most stringent enterprises, like for example, we have won 2 of the largest 5 banks in the world, right? Literally, the world's largest financial institutions for the wired wireless networks are coming to us, right? And so they've done the reviews on security. The top retailers in the world are running on us. In every continent, the #1 retailer is running on us. And then we just most recently launched our FedRAMP cloud. So basically, US federal customers are jumping on. Australia federal customers, other federal customers are actually looking at this as well. And so I want people to think and assume that, hey, the cloud, just like you validate security when you go to an Office 365 type of cloud, do all of the checks, but the cloud is secure, and other customers have done the due diligence, and the largest customers in every vertical are coming to us.
Yeah. Now, at the beginning, you described this as an AI cloud. So, what's the relationship between AI ops, and the cloud?
Yeah. So it's a very symbiotic, a very necessary relationship, right?
You can almost argue that AI and cloud, you can't do AI without the cloud.
You cannot do AI without the cloud. You absolutely cannot, right? Because we measure user experience, every user, every minute, for all the users on the network, and that's what we use as the data for the foundation for the AI. We needed an elastic, scalable cloud, and that's where the first employees Mist hired had nothing to do with networking. These were cloud engineers. They built, literally the first 3 employees never built a network, never were in networking. They were elastic, scalable cloud engineers, and that became the foundation. So we need our elastic, scalable cloud for AI.
Yeah, I think just an easy way to think about it is AI requires lots of horsepower.
Right.
Most companies don't have that on their own prem. Requires lots of data sciences.
That's right.
to be able to train the models and things like that. And even if a company had those things, I'm not sure that their data set would be large enough to train it with, right?
Correct.
And so that's and that's what you get from the cloud, right? Or at least a cloud vendor like yourself. I do think an interesting data point that you guys published, though, is the efficacy of your AI engine, because let's be honest, it's not perfect, right? But it gets better with time.
Correct.
And I do think that sometimes when I talk to network engineers, they go, "We tried AI and it didn't work," because it made one error. And I've always said, don't wait for perfection.
That's right.
As long as it's better than people.
That's right.
Right. And as I mentioned, human error is still the largest cause of downtime. So
that's right.
I think AI is going to do a better job of that.
I'll give you a simple example. I think in the spirit of what can AI do for you, if you're a wired wireless engineer, can AI impact you? Here's the simplest example. We deploy the most complex networks in the world. I mean, large robotic facilities in warehouses to higher education, large university around the world. We deploy our APs. Obviously, you design. We deploy our APs, and basically, essentially, we ask the engineers to step away from the keyboard. Right? We let the AI self-optimize better than any CCIE has ever been able to optimize the network. Every Mist network around the world is built that way, where we trust our AI to build the most efficient network better than humans can in every environment. And that's been the best outcome. I'll give you a couple of examples, right? So
give me some customer examples and the business value that are brought.
Yeah. So Jim Pike at Newport News Schools, right? So they were 3,000 AP Aruba shop. Lots of fine tuning the school district network. School district is a heavily used network. Jim says after they deployed the 3,000 Mist APs, AP to AP they replaced. No additional APs, no additional cables, exact same location, same number of APs. 0 tickets through an entire school year of testing. 0 tickets, right? And then in the higher ed space, Dartmouth College, 70% reduction in user tickets coming in. And of the 30% of the tickets that still come in, 80% of them are solved by first line help desk because of the visibility. AI has impact on the operations, right? AI has an impact in deployment. We displaced 24,000 Meraki APs at the Gap with 24,000 Mist APs. No one additional AP added, no additional cable pull, 85% reduction in the number of site visits. Right? Number of site visits across.
And those are expensive.
Expensive site visits around the world, right? So AI has an impact.
Yeah, and so one last question, and we can't talk AI without the topic of ChatGPT and generative AI coming up. So what are you guys thinking about there? How will that work into what you guys are doing at Mist?
We're licking our chops because we love this. Bob Friday, almost very visionary. 4 years ago, he said, we went from CLI to dashboards and we're going to go to conversational assistants. 4 years ago, our competitors sort of mocked us saying, they're losing their dashboards. But we started Marvis Conversational Assistant 4 years ago. We've had a very mature conversational assistant for helping with solving problems on the network. What we have already had is NLU, natural language understanding, and we have all the AI models for anomaly detection to find Marvis actions and stuff. What we are super excited about, with GPT and ChatGPT in specific, is NLG, natural language generation.
Yeah.
So what you saw on May 17th at the Mobility Field Day launch is that we are now natively integrating ChatGPT into Marvis Conversational Assistant. So ChatGPT, the power of ChatGPT is now in the Marvis Conversational Assistant.
That's impressive. So, all right, Sudheer, I think we're running up against the clock here. I want to thank you very much for your time. On behalf of Sudheer, I'm Zeus Caraval from ZK Research saying don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time on another ZKast.
Thank you very much.